Dude, episode 5 of the second season of Peacemaker brought some bombshell revelations. We had Chris saying goodbye, Eagly facing off against his mortal enemy, Sasha Bordeaux revealing her powers, and a bunch of other cool details. So, without further ado, let's dive into another full analysis of Peacemaker. The episode kicks off with a flashback from Rick Flag Jr.'s funeral. Harcourt is still pretty shaken up, and at that moment, Rick Flag Sr. starts talking to her. Amelia promises that the person responsible for Rick Flag's death will be punished. In this flashback, it became clear what that promise was, and the feeling they both have to catch the one responsible, which in this case is Peacemaker. But this flashback takes place before the Butterfly Project, before she met Chris and they became friends. In the present, Harcourt is waiting for Peacemaker after supposedly betraying him by luring him into an Argus trap. Chris shows up and we quickly realize that he knows it's a setup. He cautiously approaches and sits down next to Amelia. It's revealed she didn't actually betray him. Instead, she warned him in advance with a coded message that it was a trap. So there you have it, guys. Harcourt really isn't a traitor. This was a doubt that was left hanging from the last episode. I even mentioned it in the last review here on the channel, but now we have the answer. Harcourt and Chris end up having a brief dialogue, and when he asks if she feels anything for him, Harcourt admits that he means something to her. Chris, based on his knowledge of the other universe, asks if this is because of Rick Flag Jr., which Amelia confirms. Guys, this is a great dialogue, especially because of Harcourt's performance, which expresses the full range of emotion and conflict she has. It's evident that she feels a lot of anger toward Peacemaker for killing Rick Flag, but there is also this other side of her that cares about Peacemaker. Maybe it'll never be true love, but it's a side that can see him as a friend, and this conflict is really well portrayed by the actress who did an excellent job here. This whole scene parallels the scene from episode 3 when Chris also sat with Harcourt in a park. Even in separate universes, she says the same thing about how Chris has a huge ego and how that gets in the way. Even if he has the best intentions, people still see him as this egocentric guy who makes decisions thinking about himself first. Chris gets up, and right at that moment, Argus decides to make a move. Peacemaker tries to escape, but there's no way out. Sasha Bordeaux, using her cyborg powers, says she's going to shoot the anti-hero, and that shot is going to be fatal. And look at that, the show randomly revealed Sasha Bordeaux's powers. Until now, we presumed she didn't have any. In the comics, she gains her cyborg powers when attacked by an OMAC during the Infinite Crisis saga. Sasha acquires the powers of an OMAC while keeping her human appearance and free will. The OMACs are basically a surveillance program for metahumans using nanotechnology to temporarily infect regular people and turn them into cyborgs. And they're all monitored by the supercomputer known as Brother Eye. And guess what? You know who created Brother Eye? Batman, folks. Also, as I mentioned in previous episode reviews, Sasha and Bruce Wayne had a romantic fling in the comics. And this raises questions about whether James Gunn will actually use the OMAC concept in the DCU. The detail of Sasha's eye in the live action seems to reference the visual from the comics, where she is missing one eye. And here in Peacemaker, the show hints that Rick Flag Sr. and Sasha might have some sort of relationship, it's kind of implied. As we can see, the version of Sasha Bordeaux that James Gunn created is quite different from the comics. It's mentioned in a later scene that Sasha suffered an airplane accident and that part of her body was transformed into a cyborg. Once again, this is a reminder that James Gunn will be changing the origins of other characters in his DCU. This has happened before. For instance, Frankenstein and Creature Commandos, and even if those characters aren't super popular in DC, it still raises some concerns that Gunn might eventually change the origin of some bigger character in a bad way. Some people might even comment on the change Gunn made concerning Kryptonians in the Superman film, but in this case, it wasn't a change original to James Gunn. It was already discussed in the comics, and even in Smallville, we had a Jor-El who initially brought trouble into Superman's life. Moving back to the episode, when Chris is about to take the shot, Harcourt anticipates and incapacitates Peacemaker, saving his life. The problem is that, to Peacemaker, it looks like she betrayed him. Meanwhile, Adebayo receives a call about her ad. However, the client isn't interested in hiring her for espionage services. Poor Adebayo doesn't see the malice and only gets warned about it later by Vigilante. Speaking of Vigilante in this season, unfortunately up until now, he's been lost. He's become the go-to guy for solving problems, just being called to clean up the mess or pick up Peacemaker from Argus. It's a shame because in the first season, he was a well-explored character. In this season, he likes a more significant role in the story. He really feels out of place. At Argus, Sasha Bordeaux gets annoyed with Hardcore for getting in the way of her target, but Emilia isn't intimidated and starts insulting Sasha. Later, Hardcore talks to Equinonos and discovers that Rick Flag Sr. is going to kill Chris. The only option is to file Peacemaker into the system, which will force the head of Argus to not kill him and let him go. I still don't like these Argus characters as antagonists. While Fly was focused on keeping in contact with Judo Master, he completely ignored Red Sync Wild and didn't maintain contact, even though Red quickly found the location of Eagly and the cabin where Peacemaker was keeping a portal. Meanwhile, Red Sync Wild arrives at the cabin to try to kill Eagly. First, he attempts to poison them using a lab rat, but luckily Eagly doesn't fall for it since a fox catches the animal first. So then he decides to go with plan B, which is to shoot the eagle. Quickly, Red Sync Wild grabs a giant gun, and there's a scene where we get the impression that Eagly actually got hit, but no. Eagly brings along several other eagles, and they all together attack the villain, marking the end of Red Sync Wild. And guys, that whole Eagly versus Red Sync Wild scene was really good. James Gunn knows how to create awesome pet scenes, so here we had another great moment with Eagly. At Argus, Peacemaker gets pummeled by Flag Sr. Chris tries to say he's totally sorry for killing Flag Jr. and doesn't even react to the hits. But just as he's about to be killed, Flag Sr. is stopped since Chris is now filed in the Argus system. Adebayo and Vigilante soon come to pick up Chris from Argus and take him back to the hideout. But unbeknownst to them, they're being followed by Judo Master. After this, Rick Flag sees a strange email. The scene makes it a point to show what's in the email, and you can even read the content. And well, it's an extremely confusing email involving physics. There's even a part that talks about something involving an atomic explosion. It might be nothing, but there are theories about Rick Flag Jr. potentially returning to the DCU as Captain Atom after undergoing some procedure. That wouldn't be impossible, considering they brought Sasha Bordeaux back as a cyborg. In the comics, Captain Atom is Nathaniel Atom, who has nothing to do with Rick Flag aside from the fact that they're both soldiers, but nothing stops Gunn from changing that and making Flag into Captain Atom. Back to the episode, Peacemaker keeps blaming Hardcore for getting captured. Chris says he's fed up with everything and secretly decides it's time to go to another dimension. Upon arriving at the base, he gets rid of his friends and calls Eagly. Chris writes a letter before heading out and then goes into another dimension, deactivating the portal on his way out. Judo Master, who was following Chris, alerts Argus about the situation. When Chris enters the portal, Judo Master goes after him too. After that, Adebayo and Vigilante return to the cabin and arrive just as the portal is deactivated. The two realize Judo Master was there too and escape with the device that opens the portal. The group reunites while Adebayo reads Chris his farewell letter. Hardcore then grabs the device and says they need to rescue Chris since his place is with them on this Earth. In the alternate Earth, we get a brief Easter egg. After traveling to another Earth with the Eagly, Peacemaker, Keith, and his father kill a kaiju, which references that Superman movie with the whole kaiju scene. Now, we'll really find out in the upcoming episodes whether this Earth he ended up in is the Earth X in the DCU. The last scene of the episode shows Chris meeting Hardcore, and the episode cuts just as they're about to kiss. Guys, this was a fantastic episode. Unfortunately, it was very short, but it was really good from start to finish. And I'd say the most important part of this episode was the emotional aspect. Christopher Well was pretty touching, and the whole arc involving Eagly and his enemy was also really well done. And all of this just raises the hype for the upcoming episodes. James Gunn has already said that the next episodes are going to be wild and among the best things he's ever written. He even made a point of not showing or promoting anything about the upcoming episodes to avoid any leaks or spoilers, so we'll just have to wait for the 3 remaining episodes to see if they'll really be that good. guys, or following each episode of the second season of Peacemaker and bringing detailed reviews for you. On top of that, we've got a lot of news happening in DC, and I'm going to bring it all to you to keep you updated. So make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Also, drop your thoughts about Peacemaker in the comments. Are you enjoying the show? Share your opinions in the comments. I'm signing off here, and we'll see each other soon.